Welcome to Courtside, presented by Tower Hill Insurance. I'm Sean Kelley, and I'm joined this week by Gators assistant coach Carlin Hartman. Hartman's in his fourth year on the Gators basketball staff, and of course from his playing days, a Hall of Famer at Tulane University, a national champ too now, of course, under Todd Golden and with that team from a season ago. Coach, great to see you. It's a chance for us to catch up and get to know you a little bit better in this visit. And I would like to start the conversation by allowing our fans to understand more fully what your job is on the basketball staff and your primary areas of responsibility.
Well, I think my biggest job on the staff is obviously, being the top aide to Todd. Anything and everything that he needs from me, I'm going to make sure I put out my best effort to do so. Areas of responsibility are always recruiting. Everybody, has to recruit, especially at this particular level. And now with that, there's a lot more things that go with it, knowing agents, having just relationships throughout, the entire world. And so that obviously, another big area of emphasis I think a lot of people know of me is I'm, in charge of our front court and our bigs, who I believe have done a really good job, since we've been here in our time here. And, they've worked really hard to, become the players that they are and get to this point. And I think the other big thing that I take pride in is, being a mentor, to the players, making sure that I'm always available for them, not just in practice, not just during the day, but also making myself and my home and my family available to them. So I would say those are just a few of the areas that I'm responsible for and my role and responsibilities here at Florida.
There's always that other duties as assigned,
Yeah.
Your coaching career now, Carlin, is decades old, and yet it's very different than when you first started.
Yeah.
Let's just stick with the recruiting piece of it that you referred to in your areas of responsibility. Right now, there's still the old-fashioned high school recruiting, but then now we have the portal as well. How do you balance, or what is your approach to recruiting those different areas now in roster building and management?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just making sure that our time is being spent appropriately. I think gone are the days of, recruiting one or a couple or a few or maybe even mass numbers of high school guys for years and years. Now it's a little bit more strategic just in terms of what is your roster going to be, the very next year. That may not start in terms of, for us at this level, until December or January, when we really get a feel for like what our team looks like, who we could possibly lose, through maybe, the portal or transfer. And in our case here at Florida, fortunately, guys leaving, for the NBA. So it has become different in the high school sense, where we're constantly keeping tabs on guys. We're watching them, and we are recruiting, but in terms of like making hard pushes and so forth, that could be, circumstantial, to say the least. That's how it was before. And now, that's how it is now. But where it was before was a time in which, you were building relationships for a long time. And, you get a kid on campus six or seven times, throughout the course of 2 or 3 years. We don't have those luxuries anymore.
What are the pros and cons in this era now of the high school player entering the program as opposed to the pros and cons of a transfer portal type player? Is there a way to delineate between the two?
Well, I think the high school player now, I think the pros for the high school guys are, identifying somebody that you can hopefully, grow with the program. And then you're going to have some that are going to be ready to play, right away, depending on what your roster looks like. I think the cons that happen now, for high school guys, and we're seeing it throughout the country, with the exception of maybe 10 or 15, players, per class, is that the older guys that are coming out of the portal are essentially the ones that are plug and play. And so those high school guys, you could be a, top 25, sometimes you could be top 50, 75, whatever it is. And you're having a battle and you're having to maybe even wait your turn, to get on the floor. That wasn't the case, up until like 5 or 6 years ago, where those level players were getting on the court right away. The cons for the portal guys, are that, you are essentially getting to know them, through essentially speed dating, it could be, or through somebody else, a third party, an agent or something like that. And so you may not have the same luxury of, knowing exactly who this young man is on a day in, day out basis, other than, utilizing contacts, through, talking to people that have coached a young man in the past. But that's the biggest con. And the pro of it is you're just getting someone who's older, mature, and ready to, be able to play at the power forward level. And, pretty much, as we are very analytically driven on our staff, we can look at the data and see like, okay, this guy's going to be really good in these particular areas. And so that's always been a huge benefit for us, not just being analytically savvy, but I work for, if not the best, which I think he is the best, Todd Golden, roster builders in the country, especially in today's day and age, as evident to what we did last year, finding essentially Elijah Martin in the portal, was the guy that we needed to kind of bridge the gap from being a good team to a great team, especially on the defensive end of the floor. And then also bringing in a Ruben Chinyelu. Those two guys solidified our starting lineup. Sam Alexis came in and solidified, our top 8, 9 guys that we can play the way we wanted to play. We've had some other really good ones, obviously, in Zion Pullen and Tyrese Samuel come through the portal and so forth. And, we've been able to, be very fortunate with what we've been able to do.
That's true, including this year's team. Your journey goes from high-level player into coaching. I'd be curious as to know for you, when and where was it that you felt like I'm a coach?
Yeah.
Like I've got my coaching legs underneath me now.
Well, actually, when I was a player at Tulane, Coach Clark, Perry Clark, just watching him and watching the staff, and that staff was Perry Clark was our head coach. Ron Everhart was an assistant who ended up being a head coach himself at Duquesne and other places for many, many years. We had another guy, Jim Harder, who was the son of Dick Harder, a longtime NBA coach, was on our staff. Dennis Felton, we said Jimmy Tillett. These guys went on. Todd Bozeman, Billy Kennedy. So there were a lot of people that I was able to look up to at that time as a player. And by the time I got to my junior year, I said, this is probably something that after I finished playing that I would like to do.
When it comes to being a balanced man, and I know that you are a big part of this team's life away from the floor as much as on the floor, what have you learned about yourself as far as it can't be basketball all the time?
Yeah.
How do you build around that to be a whole person?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just, again, having a great family. My wife, Christine, of 23 years, always not just allowing, but welcoming in, any player that, I say, hey, let's get this guy or let's get these guys as a group over to the house. And also the rest of my family, all my kids, throughout the years of players from Germany and Australia and Canada and Africa, that have come into our home. Our kids have gotten a chance to get to see so many different people from so many different walks of life and their families as well. That's been about the biggest blessing that I could take from it, is my family being a part of this whole journey. And my son, Joseph, being able to aspire to be a lot of these guys. Throughout the years, he's been able to, watch and be around Austin Reeves. He's been able to watch and be around Kevin Anderson, Mahalo Lowe, really great players in the past. And now with this group that we've had, Will Richard, Walter Clayton, Elijah Martin, and so many others. Right now, like Joseph is really tight with Alex Condon and Thomas Houck and Cooper Josephberg, Micah Hanlock, and that is a blessing in itself, for my son to be able to see these guys and aspire to be them.
And now, Carlin, he's on the brink of becoming a member of the class of player that you've built your career around. Joseph is an elite high school basketball player here in Gainesville and will be attending the University of Michigan. How do you see that season of your life now coming to fruition?
Yeah, that's going to kind of come all full circle, from the time he was born to, the time that he, made his commitment and signed his letter of intent. Us as a family, we take a lot of pride in, making sure we treat people the right way, make it about others, not about ourselves. Mm-hmm. Joseph has adhered to that as well. He's a fun young man to be around. He's easy to get along with. He can talk to anybody. I think anybody that meets him to a man or a woman would say that he's a very nice young man that carries himself the right way. And we're very proud of the person that he is. And I look forward to, being a father and a spectator, You know, and I know a lot of people wonder why is he not coming here to Florida. I think the balance of trying to, you know, be your son's coach is a lot different than just being his dad and letting him go off and live his own journey, live his own life. And Todd and I have talked about it a lot. Todd and I are great friends at the end of the day, and he cares about our family. And he and I just talk through the different scenarios that come along with it. And at the end of the day, you know, I said to myself, you know what? I absolutely love my job, and I love coming in here and just being objective and being able to, you know, make decisions, you know, and not wearing everything on my heart. But I also love being my son's father even more. So I'm going to take that route instead.
So he gets to be Joseph and you get to be Dad. Sounds like a great setup there.
It's going to be pretty cool.
Carlin, last thing I do want to give you the opportunity to speak to our fans. You know, you're with our bigs, as we call them, day in, day out. What do you think you'd like our fans to know about those guys playing for the Gators right now that they wouldn't be able to know watching them on television, hearing the games on the radio, seeing them in person?
That they're unbelievable young men. And I mean that sincerely. You always hear the cliche, oh, he's a great player, but he's an even better person. And it really and truly, they are who they are because of the people that they, you know, grew up to be. You know, I can start with Micah Hanlockton. Ben and Danielle, tremendous parents. Ben was a great player in himself, played in the NBA, played overseas for a long time. Danielle, his mom, you know, very, just a good lady, good person. They allow him to be coached by us. They don't, you know, get involved with, you know, our decision making. Micah in himself is just an unbelievable person, as you well know if, you know, you couldn't tell that he was already a great dude for what he did last year, taking that red shirt off. He's selfless. He loves Florida. He loves his teammates. He's all about, you know, again, he's all about others. And he's just a fun guy to be around who can, and he's goofy, he's silly, he can dance, you know, like he's got some weird things that he's juggling, you know.
Indeed.
You know?
Yes.
Yeah, so you know what I'm
yes.
saying, right? But, you know, for all the fans to know, like, you know, for his selflessness and his sacrifice, what he did last year, unbelievable dude. Alex Condon, you know, one of my favorites all time. Him and Thomas came in the same time. They were in the same class as freshmen. They also came in with Micah and Tyrese in that big portal class we had with Walt and so forth. But Alex he's a acquired taste a little bit in a sense, if you will. When I say that in a good way. He's okay with being a big fish in the big pond. You know, he likes to, you know, hang out with his friends. He likes to hang out with his teammates. He's gonna, have a great time, but he's not gonna let it affect his game. But he's just such a good person to be around. Easygoing, can laugh at himself, and just a joy to be around. Thomas is easy to be around as well. He's a little bit more serious than most of them. But he also can, you know, still be someone. He can also be one of the guys, you know. But you can always know that if you're not going to see Thomas on the court, he's going to be probably fishing, you know, down the road, or he's going to just be hanging out with his teammates, playing the games, and he's going to be doing the schoolwork. And Chinyelo, at the end of the day, like this dude here, man, like, and you're smiling already. I can already tell. Like he's a different breed altogether, and he's a throwback. He's like an old school 1980s tough, rugged, you know, physical dude, you know. But he also has a side of him. Like I brought him. He comes over to the house, you know, like maybe once every month or something like that, and we'll just talk about. He'll talk about his homeland, back in Nigeria, and how proud he is to be from there. He'll talk about how he was raised and, you know, the things he's able to do for his family now. And he also is just, very proud of the fact that he was able to build his mom a home. He wants to be a dentist. He wants to go back and, you know, give back to the community. So they're all a joy. Victor Mikic is fun to be around. Olivier has gotten so much better, you know, as a player that not everyone is seeing. but he brings it every single day. He works out with Victor Lopez, our great strength coach. And last year, and I think the first couple of times you saw him, he would probably be on the ground a lot, just falling down, because he wasn't strong enough to be able to stand straight up all the time. Now he can transition up and down the floor easily. He's got a great personality. Mika's got a great. All of them are just tremendous, and they all allow me to coach them. They all allow me to, do that because I give them my side of being a human, and when you do that and you let them see who you are outside of the court, that's when they really will fight for you, and so we've had our moments. Mm-hmm. It's not always perfect, as you well know. I could use a few choice things, to say to them at times, like at halftime of the Final Four game that everyone publicizes and so forth. But there's a lot of moments like that, a lot more moments like that. But that's okay, because at the end of the day, those are the life lessons, that aren't always perfect, that when they can push through and get to the other side and then become more and more consistent as players on both ends of the floor, that's when you reap the benefits of, what the whole thing is about.
We get to see the games. You get to see it all. Appreciate the insight there.
Anytime.
Carlin, go Gators.
Go Gators.
Carlin Hartman, everybody, here on Courtside, presented by Tower Hill Insurance.